News!
Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, it appears that reigning IBF minimum weight champion Yokasta Valle is going to be in action in Pomona, California, here stateside, as part of a Marv Nation promotion on November the 20th. Against an opponent that has yet to be announced, though I think it's safe to say that because this is a Marv Nation promotion as opposed to a Golden Boy Promotions promotion, I doubt it's going to be Senicia Estrada. If it were going to be Senicia, I have no doubts it would be a Golden Boy Promotions promotion featured on DAZN as a unification match. And I'm not ruling out a unification match for Yokasta Valle. It's possible that maybe they get Tina Ruprecht on the phone for that November 20th date and see about unifying with her, because if I'm being honest, it would be easier to try and avenge the loss to Tina, the loss that Yokasta suffered to Tina years ago, than attempting to give Senicia her first professional loss. Yokasta Valle lost to Tina Ruprecht back in June of 2018, about 2-3 years ago. And they were supposed to do a unification match last year, but the pandemic hit and screwed the pooch for everybody.
Ring Magazine title is supposed to be on the line.
A lot has happened since then. Senicia Estrada has become the WBA's minimum weight champion. Yokasta, she only got to fight once last year in February, though this year she's gotten to fight 2 times, and in November that makes 3. She was last in action this past August on the 7th against Deborah Rengifo. Since then, she's actually touched down here stateside on the West Coast, and she called out Senicia Estrada by name, though I myself questioned the earnestness of the call-out, because Senicia Estrada is not hard to find, and Senicia Estrada has a major promoter behind her that has a major platform deal. So making a fight with Senicia, ideally, is very easy. It should be.
Because Golden Boy can afford it.
Whereas Marv Nation Promotions, who Yokasta Valle does business with here stateside, they can't afford to pay Senicia the way that Senicia gets paid. Essentially, if you want an Estrada fight, it's there for the taking. So if you ain't got it, maybe it's because you don't want it that bad.
Just being honest.
At this time, we don't know who it is that Yokasta Valle is going to be fighting, though short of a unification match with one of the other 3 champions at this weight.
It might reflect poorly on Yokasta.
Calling out Senicia Estrada on her home turf only to end up fighting some low-tier opponent, some subpar girl.
Because we all know how this works.
So let's just cut the fucking crap. Senicia Estrada's always in the market for an opponent, always in the market for a champion, always in the market for a unification fight. And if that isn't happening for you, maybe it's because you're not trying hard enough. Maybe it's because you don't want it that bad.
Maybe you're just using her name to get articles written about you.
Could be that way. We see it all the time. I mean, Jermall Charlo decided to start calling Gennady Golovkin out at a time when Gennady Golovkin is starting his camp for a Ryota Murata fight that we all know about.
It's clout chasing.
We had some good chats with Nikisa and Most Valuable Promotions. Actually got a call with them later this week as well. They're pushing hard on the numbers, you know, for Amanda. They feel that, you know, she deserves real parity with Katie Taylor. So, but, you know, Amanda Serrano is now also bringing a huge amount of pull with Jake Paul, you know, and he's going to add a huge amount to the promotion. So Katie Taylor actually looks like she has to box off one more mandatory in January or February. In December or January. And then I think we'll see that fight probably in April time. I expect Amanda Serrano to box in December as well, maybe on the Jake Paul card. And I'm really confident we can make that fight.
The news is looking very encouraging for both Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano's super fight. Both girls may see action before this year is out. We talked about my previous video how Amanda might make her next in-the-ring appearance on Jake Paul's undercard against Tommy Fury this upcoming December. Also in December, Katie Taylor may be boxing against one of her mandatory challengers. I think that could be France's own gold medalist Estelle Mosley Yoka, the wife of Tony Yoka, or it could be Firuza Sharapova. When you've got all the belts, you also have all the mandatories. Katie already satisfied her WBA mandatory by way of Miriam Gutierrez, her IBF mandatory by way of Jennifer Hahn. A trip over to the WBC's current rank standings at lightweight shows that Delphine Persoon is ranked at number 1, but Delphine Persoon, since that Katie Taylor rematch, has moved down to super featherweight. Thus, that would make Estelle Mosley Yoka the highest ranked contender in line for a title shot. And if for some reason Estelle don't want that title shot, Germany's own Nicole Wessner, unbeaten Nicole Wessner, Behind the goal is former WBO lightweight champion of Brazil, Rose Vellante, and behind Rose is Selena Barrios, Miriam Gutierrez, Katie's old amateur rival, Sofia Ochiguava. I mean, could be any one of them, depending on the availability of the combatants. We'll see, but things are
coming together.
Well, over a year ago, when Taylor versus Serrano first fell apart, I figured that if it's Amanda's intention to gain more leverage, more bargaining power at the negotiation table, that's going to take some time, at least a year's time, before she can come back.
Having amassed some kind of marquee value.
And even here now in 2021, it does seem like it's still on Matchroom to foot the bill. It's still on Matchroom to pay for everything. As Eddie Hearn specified, they're really driving towards certain kinds of numbers, certain kinds of figures for what Amanda Serrano wants to get paid for the fight. And she does stand to make more now than she would have last year had she taken the fight.
She took the fight. What she didn't do was honor the contract.
I think Amanda Serrano's been very fortunate with this entire situation. Fortunate that Eddie Hearn is not in the business of holding grudges, because the way Amanda handled that situation, that's just bad business. But he's willing to forgive and forget, it seems, and do what he's got to do to get the fight over the line. I think she's fortunate in that Eddie doesn't hold grudges, and that she stumbled upon Jake Paul, who was willing to help her in this endeavor.
Help to bridge the gap.
You may see both Amanda and Katie in action in the month of December, and everything seems to be on the up and up, so let's see if this trend continues.
I lost the fight, and it was a great lesson as to why me and my core team have spoken to make other people in the team accountable, to make me a complete better assassin when it comes to boxing. I'm done with fucking losing. I'm done with trying to learn the boxing sweet science. I've just putting it all together now and rolling with it. If you like it, come watch. If you don't watch. But whether the ref likes my style or not, he might get thrown on the floor in the next fight, because this is war, innit? Boxing is good.
Stay hungry and fuck being humble are the words that Anthony Joshua has imparted ahead of this second Usyk fight, this rematch. And it sounds a lot like Anthony Joshua has found his identity ahead of this rematch, more or less. He just knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to fight the fight. You could make the inference that perhaps Anthony Joshua wasn't comfortable with the initial game plan, but he went with it, and it all worked out the way it worked out, and now he's going to do things his way. He says, "For me, I have one thing on my mind. That's war. That's murder. That's to go out there and hurt the guy and take his soul to the point where he wants to give up."
We talked about these comments in my last video.
I love a challenge.
Anthony, what was Rob and the team's thoughts about your approach to this fight? I'm assuming that when you say speak to the team, that you're in agreement that that's going to be your approach to fighting Alexander Usyk. So you must have all been comfortable with that game plan going into that fight as a team.
You got to speak to the team. But for me, in my own head, now Rob will listen to this, a load of people will listen to it. You know, Joby, Angel, nutritionist, whatever, will listen to it. Like, it's beast, it's just war. It's war.
Listening to these comments, you get the sense that perhaps Anthony Joshua, in his own mind, he wanted to do things one way, and Rob McCracken, might have wanted to do things another way. With Anthony Joshua's best intentions in mind,
It just wasn't the right game plan.
just wasn't. Going in there and allowing the smaller man to fight his fight by playing to his strengths in what was a cerebral fight, a chess match, fencing of the jabs, trying to create opportunities, picking your shots, and choosing the right time to bring over a big shot, a big right hand or something like that. Usyk's not going to give you those opportunities because he's that good a boxer. And if you fight that kind of fight, your height, your reach, your size, your power, none of that matters.
None of it.
Because you're fighting on his terms. Usyk has to get ready for a different fight the second time out.
'Cause I'm coming for them belts, boy. You're going to see the raft of the new champ. Different energy, different spirit. Coming to win. I tried to learn boxing, stick and move. Isolating the sweet science of the sport, doctrinating my style. But we're going back to the raw, rugged streets. That's where I belong. I never followed no athletes growing up, no movie stars. I followed the hustlers, the Rayful Edmonds, the Jeff Ports, the Nicky Barnes, the Big Meaches, the Larry Hoovers. You understand me? They're the people that gave me that inspiration, the ones that came up from the streets to the top of the world, the empires. the bangers, the hustlers. That's what's fueling me again. Sometimes in life, no matter how far you go, always remember where you came from.
And he's about had it with diplomacy. He says, fuck Bob Arum. Joshua's a bottle job. He's a cherry picker. He didn't want to fight Tyson Fury. Fuck all that with all due respect. Take it how you want. He can talk shit about me and think I'm going to take it easy. He talks a lot of shit. And he does. You know, Bob Arum actually picked Joseph Parker to beat Anthony Joshua. Most people don't remember that. But did he give Anthony Joshua any credit for winning that fight? No, he didn't. He also picked Kubrat Pulev to beat him. Same Kubrat Pulev that Anthony Joshua knocked out last year.
Remember?
He didn't give Anthony Joshua any credit for that either. He, like many others, immediately wrote Anthony Joshua off after the first Andy Ruiz Jr. fight. He said he was finished, like many people said Anthony Joshua was finished. And he never gave him any credit for getting those belts back. The professional courtesies between
These two guys.
Bob Arum and Anthony Joshua, they are far and few. And even now, what kind of tune do you think old Bob, Uncle Bob is singing? He says,
Listen, whatever new trainer he gets, he ain't gonna beat Alexander Usyk. Not now, not next year, never. Usyk is too smart for him. Joshua's not gonna learn in 6 months what he never learned. How to fight a southpaw.
that is yet another inaccurate assessment of Anthony Joshua's abilities as a boxer because he won his very first world title from a southpaw, Charles Martin. Granted that Charles Martin is not the caliber of fighter that Alexander Usyk is, though all the same, he's a southpaw.
Southpaw Bob don't give Anthony no credit for beating.
And it didn't take him 7 years and over 30 fights to fight that caliber of fighter. He was fighting that kind of fighter in only his, third, fourth year as a pro boxer?
You ask anybody, who's the heavyweight champion? Who's the best? There would be close to unanimity saying Tyson Fury, but that doesn't denigrate Usyk. He's the guy who would be the most competitive with Fury. Hopefully next year, that can happen.
That's what Bob is banking on. Moreover, I think that's what Bob wants, because it's a different situation making a fight between Fury and Usyk as opposed to making a fight with Fury and Anthony Joshua. You know, if Anthony Joshua gets those belts back, Eddie Hearn is back in the picture, and he's going to be the one.
He's going to be the lead promoter.
Matchroom has a bigger budget than Top Rank, and they would likely pick up where they left off to where Eddie Hearn was doing all the legwork. Eddie Hearn was pulling all the strings and making things happen, ensuring that the fight is the biggest financial fight that it can be. It wasn't Bob and it wasn't Top Rank behind all of that. It was Eddie Hearn, and Bob don't want that because Bob, like a lot of people in boxing, he's got a big ego.
He'll one-up Eddie Hearn any chance he gets.
Part of me feels like Bob Arum would actually prefer that Anthony Joshua not get those belts back. Let them deal with Johnny Foreigner that don't speak no goddamn English, which will help make Fury the A-side fighter.
That's what he's thinking.
That's why he is once again counting Anthony Joshua out. Anthony Joshua, who I think, here and now, based on these comments in this interview with Kugan Cassius by way of IFL TV,
He's in the right headspace.
you gotta say fuck it. Fuck the naysayers, fuck the critics, fuck the people that have been taking a piss for all these years, and fuck the sweet science, at least for now, because you can't sweet science this guy.
They're going for precision here.
Can't use a scalpel for this job. You need an axe. You want to inflict blunt force trauma? Then you've got to act as a blunt force object. There are risks involved. You go in there going for the gusto, you're running the risk of burning out, burning through your energy reserves, and maybe getting knocked out after succumbing to exhaustion. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. Those are the risks.
Playing it safe didn't win you to fight the last time, right?
Right. So now it's time to let the dog off the leash. And finally, Australia's own Tim Tszyu chimed in on the world title situation ahead of his November 17th fight with Takeshi Inui. He says Castaño will be a tough challenge. Charlo is overrated. Castaño had recently stated that he doesn't believe Tszyu had achieved enough to warrant a world title shot. He also jabbed Tszyu for his refusal to face anyone away from home soil. Yeah, once I start smacking him in the face, he's gonna regret his words, I guess. Tszyu said to the Sydney Morning Herald. That's the thing. He's on mandatory now, so he's got no choice but to fight me. Look, Castaño, he's going to be a tough challenge. Charlo, I don't rate Charlo. I never did. To fight for all the belts, you know what? I prefer winning each belt one by one, just like Canelo Alvarez did. You get to take out every champion and everyone that's in the division instead of just one. So we'll see how it goes. Castaño is a tough competitor. He's awkward, he's tough, and Charlo's just overrated. Charlo's just in a world of his own. I thought Charlo was going to win, but in my eyes, I think Castaño won that fight. Castaño's pressure and his awkwardness. He's only small, and he always makes it into his fight. So the aim is to make his fight into my fight. Strange situation at 154 pounds because I've heard of no talks for a rematch between the two champions there, Jermell Charlo and Brian Castaño, though at the same time, I've heard no new news in reference to the IBF's order. The IBF who ordered Jermell Charlo to face his mandatory challenger, Baktram Mortazaliev, and that order came down in July. They gave those guys 30 days to reach a deal, and
I mean, it's been well over 30 days.
has anybody noticed that the IBF isn't as Johnny on the spot as they usually are? I mean, when's the last time Errol Spence was ordered to fight a mandatory?
I don't know, but that's what Charlo's supposed to be doing.
That was supposed to be the reason they couldn't go into an immediate rematch, because of that order for that outstanding mandatory by way of the IBF. Thus, if Tszyu makes it past Takeshi Inoue in November,
There's nothing standing in the way of him and Brian Castaño.
Tszyu is in a pole position to challenge for the WBO title at 154 pounds. And if Brian's not all tied up with a unification match, there's nothing stopping the WBO from ordering that fight. The thing is, Tim's got to make it past Takeshi Inoue, and Takeshi Inoue, whilst being one of these guys that flies pretty low on the radar, he's a live one.
The guy went 12 rounds with Jaime Munguia.
Took his best shots, still managed to come forward and rough up the then reigning WBO junior middleweight champion. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to fall apart as soon as a hard shot lands. Tim may have his work cut out for him before it even becomes about a Brian Castaño fight.
I like his attitude.
I like his ambition, and I like how he's being matched. But I have to say that
I like what he could represent for Australian boxing.
I'd be very surprised if he takes Takeshi Inoue easy.